All right, so this week we're discussing federalism, and I want to start by first, of course, mentioning that today is, 9/11. I remember the day it happened very well. I was 29, yeah, 29, um, and I was in law enforcement at the time. I just remember I watched the second plane hit the Tower 2. It's the North Tower, and raced to work. I was a deputy and spent the next um, couple of weeks very busy. My cousin was in the Pentagon when it was hit, and that was very scary for a lot of us. But anyways, I just want to kind of put that out there. Today is 9/11. I'm sure y'all very much aware. This week we're discussing federalism. Federalism is a very unique system of government where that we created it. It's literally our invention. And the idea is that if you think about the term the United States of America, we know what a state is. A state is a sovereign nation, right? It has its own border, its own population, its own governance. Well, the United States decided to take 13 separate states and create a United States. One, it helped them with their greater territory. Two, economically, and three, of course, helped them. Divided, they fell. United, they were able to win a revolution. So that's one of the reasons why the United States became what they were. Keep that in mind. So, with the fact that they were a united or a union of states, the idea was for them to find a way to work together. Now, with the current idea of our current Constitution, there are certain powers that a regular nation state does not have in ours. Now, let me explain that to you. Germany, the nation of Germany or nation of England, so on and so on, their central authority, their central government has absolute power in many things. In our country, due to federalism, it is literally split up. As an example, the education, although there's a Department of Education at the federal level, they don't really have any power to enforce anything because education is left to the states. If Montana chose to completely not use Common Core or to go its own route education-wise, the federal government couldn't sit and say, or the central government could sit and say, sorry, get back in line. They can't do that. What they can do is they can allow the creation of certain monies, and these monies then can be used to help with education in that state. So here we're going to give you like, $10 million to upgrade your classes, but to get this money, you have to go in line with Common Core. So that's kind of how the federal government, it's how the federal government uses, I refer to federal, I'm referring to the central government, how the central government is able to influence the state level. Growing up, the national driving speed limit was 55 miles an hour. Imagine that, all across the country. I remember it was about 22, 23, I guess, when they finally, the federal law that made it mandatory, 55, was revoked. And what happened with that was that all the states could choose their speed limits. But if they wanted money to upgrade their roads, to manage their roads, then they had to abide by the federal law on maximum speed limits. So that's kind of another way that federal government is interplayed. Another one under the federal government system is that instead of every state having its own embassy overseas, that power resides only in the central government. Okay, it may be some kind of strange that would be even remotely an issue, but it is, right? But also too, though, you have a lot of your border states. There's a coalition of border states, California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, that does have a consensus, or basically a group of governors that meet and they discuss specifically issues on their borders. Why? Because as a sovereign state, they have the right to their own border protection. Operation Border Star in Texas has been going on for 10 years now, I think. I was involved in it for 4.5 years, yeah. Operation Border Star was where the federal government didn't want to send down troops, National Guard troops, to the border under Chapter 10, which is when you federalize National Guardsmen. So instead, Texas decided to use called SAD, State Active Duty, Chapter 31, and send down troops to man the border under the power of the governor. So and you find that sometimes you'll find, like you also find when they had the incident in the 60s where I think it was in Arkansas where they wouldn't let the government passed a law said you're going to allow intermixing of different ethnic groups. I hate the phrase race because we're all the same race. And ethnic groups, African Americans, to go to regular college. And so the government decided to go in and enact the National Guard at the point under State Active Duty, SAD, and it's actual acronym SAD, and to block them from entering the college. Well, then President Kennedy turned right around and he federalized them under Chapter 10, and they then took orders from the president, and they were then ordered to keep anyone from stopping these students from entering into college. So it's kind of cool. Those are things about federalism, right? This goes back to the idea that when they had to make the new Constitution, the problem was that our country was somewhat like eating a steak. We had this wonderful steak. We had no fork, knife, and no teeth, right? We couldn't dig in and cut the steak open to eat it because we didn't have certain powers, right? Didn't have the power. The federal government could declare war, but had no power to raise a military. That was up to each sovereign state under the Union. So the idea was creating the federal government was how do we go about finding a middle ground. So certain powers are left just to the federal government, to the central government. You often hear me use federal government for the central government, and certain powers are left only to the states. And that's basically how it works. That's one of the reasons why that you have the American Bar Association. There are certain states in the union where you can become a lawyer with not meeting the ABA standards and practice law in your state, but you cannot practice law in other states unless it is only federal law, right? So Tennessee is one of those states. I have a friend of mine. He's a medical doctor. Went and got his law degree, and from the same university that Al Gore's father did, then Senator Al Gore. And he is a working attorney, but only in Tennessee and a couple other states that recognize his law degree. He did that in Tennessee for a long time, and now he practices in California, but only federal law. So things like that, right? So states have certain powers, and the central government has other powers. They co-share together. It is a very mixed together form of government. So the question for the week you're going to write on discussion point is how does federalism affect this state in Montana, and in what ways does it affect you? How can federalism be improved on? And are there restrictions in federalism that we right now need to correct? Okay, those are your discussion prompts for the week. You can use those, or you can touch on those and use your own. Okay. All right. Have a great week. I'm going to add another video to this. I did last semester on federalism. Hope that also helps out a little bit. But again, discussion points. How does federalism work, and how does it affect our work in Montana and affect you? So pick something that you can think of that that you see in there. Like so right now we have the National Forest Service. They're fighting fires. There's national firefighters are fighting them, but they're in our states. That's an idea, right? You have federalism. You have Native American reservations in Montana that are under only federal law. They don't apply to state law because they're a sovereign territory. So think about all those ideas of federalism, okay? All right, have a great week.